Flosstube. It's Arlene here. It's Saturday, September 19th, and it's been a few weeks since I've been here. I meant to look to see when that was. I know it was sometime in August. Uh, Lots of things going on, both stitching world and not stitching world, as is the case for all of us these days. But it was about time for me to come on and just give a little update. First of all, need to start with a huge shout out, kudos, round of applause for anyone and everyone that's involved in education these days. And by that, I mean teachers and parents. And sure, if there's any students watching me too. We all know it's difficult, no matter what scenario you have going on, all the way from completely in school all the time to completely online all the time, and the lots of in-betweens. Teachers, we're all finding our best way we can. I know that as on some various teacher Facebook groups and so on, and there's a lot of stories of the struggles, and there's a lot of people trying to help each other out. Hey, this just worked really well for me, and try out this. And it's gratifying to see that kind of collaboration going on. And I know the parents are struggling too. I get it. For me, I had a game changer. I got myself a standing desk, or the kind that you put on top of a desk that you already have. I spent all of last spring, or since March, whatever, teaching at my dining room table. For me, it's standing up. That's the way I'm used to teaching. And so I had this whole pile of boxes and books, and I knew exactly how to configure it to get my laptop at the right height. I was also using when you can write on the side. Anyway, but seeing how we're moving in and still staying the same, and the various things that I'm doing right now, I did some rearranging in my office space, moved the desk to the other wall so I was facing the window, cleared everything out, got this standing desk, and it's been good so far. I will also say, as I say most beginning of the years, I need to get my sea legs back, meaning teaching can be challenging at the beginning, separate from the challenges that are going on now. I also do a lot of tutoring, and so still doing that virtually, and there's different challenges involved in that. Anyway, however, if you are in any way involved in education right now, I give you a round of applause. Lots of other people do too, and we just got to stay positive, and somehow this is all going to be okay. There's enough people that believe that it's all going to be okay. So, I'm looking at my list. There's a number of things that I'm not going to talk about today, partially because I am hoping the next time you see me in a few weeks, I'm going to have new patterns to share with all of you. So some of the stitching I've been doing basically over the summer, I'm still keeping under wraps for a little bit. Some things I do have to show you. But because I have new patterns coming out, I'm going to do what I have done before, which is to offer a giveaway for you to have the opportunity to win any of my patterns. It doesn't have to be the new ones. It could be your choice, whatever pattern you would like, whether you're a PDF person or a hard copy person. So if you're interested in winning one of my patterns, leave a comment below. And I was going to think of something new, and I forgot to do that. So I'm just going to go with what I've done with before. In your comment, let me know your initials. You could put at the end your initials. For those of you who are new here or don't know, I am designed under Works by ABC. My Etsy store is linked below. You might also find my patterns in your own LNSs because I'm distributed by Huffman. So I know people have, written to me or commented on an Instagram post or something that they've seen my patterns in the stores. So I call myself Works by ABC. My initials truly are ABC. So that's why the initial thing. So if you're interested in winning a pattern, leave a comment with your initials, and I will choose them in my next video, which again is when I should have new patterns to share with you. So what do I have to share with you? Well, I have a couple of cool things. Let's start with this. If you are, well, whether or not you're a just cross stitch subscriber, this is the yearly ornament issue. You can also buy this like at a Barnes and Nobles, Joann's. It kind of varies from one store to the next, but you can get the ornament issue. Like I've seen the ornament issue in places where they don't carry the regular issues of Just Cross Stitch. So for the second year in a row, I have an ornament in here. So I'll just show you the real deal. This is the ornament that I did. It's on a 32 count ruby red fabric, Zweigart. I think it's just one of their colors. I used Petite Treasure braid, only one strand, even with the cross stitches, and you could see there's also back stitching and beads going on in there. And I was just about to say, I don't remember what I called it, but luckily there's a sticker still on the back. Golden Filigree is what I called it. And I will also say that when I put it together, I stitched this and finished it myself. This is not an expert finishing job. I'm kind of glad you only sort of see it a little bit in the picture, which I'll show you in the magazine. I did it like this because my ornament from last year was on a diamond shape, turned. And so I thought I want to do it differently. But after I'd done this, I did happen to hold it like this, and I was like, oh, I kind of like that better. So just know, if you're stitching this or anything that is geometric and some way, always check to see which way you like it. I mean, this is for an ornament, but the argument could also be said for anything that's square or something like that, whether you want it facing up or turned this way. Now, again, this is symmetrical, so you wouldn't think about those options. But so here it is. My, can I get them all? Yeah. That, so I was going to show you, and there it is there, my picture. I need to do a better picture. And it is in the section, if you've ever gotten, or have not gotten this before, they take all the ornaments and they put them into categories, and some of them are kind of loose. Like they put mine under the category Deck the Halls. Okay. You can deck the halls, and there's my piece right there. Just in case you're interested, the categories are Blue Christmas, Christmas Critters, Deck the Halls, Holly Jolly Christmas, Jolly Old St. Nicholas, Let It Snow, Oh Christmas Tree, Oh Holy Night, and Reindeer Express. I don't know if you can see those. Anyway. If you are into stitching ornaments, particularly Christmas ornaments, you might want to pick up a copy. And if you happen to stitch this, let me know. I love to know when people are stitching something of mine. It's a little gratifying, and I appreciate it too. So that's the first thing, stitching-wise, to share with you. And, I meant to do this first. That's okay. The ornament issue came out middle to end of August. A little bit before that, what's listed as the October issue, I always think of it as September, October, but I know they don't list that. They don't do the 2-month thing anymore. They just pick the second month. So it's called the October issue, has this Halloween pumpkin design on the cover. I have a design in this issue, and it is Fall Bouquet. Now, I had a model to stitch this, so I don't have the actual thing because it wasn't mine to get back. Just Cross Stitch will send back if you stitch it. And they were the ones who chose to do it as a table runner, which I thought was very nice. I would say, disagree with me here if you happen to have a copy of this issue and look it up yourself. There's something about this picture that doesn't seem in focus, that doesn't sound right. It's just not as super clear, this part. I feel like the stitching part just isn't as super clear as their pictures usually are, even the other ones in this particular issue. And I may be imagining it. It's just what jumped out at me when I first got the issue and saw it in there. But there it is there we go. Fall Bouquet in the October 2020 issue of Just Cross Stitch. So it's always exciting when I have a piece. This is the 4th time, I think, that I've had a piece in this Just Cross Stitch. So it's super cool. Next on the list. So the last time I did a floss tube, I shared with you about two projects that I'd started sort of simultaneously, and one of them I was waiting for thread, so I started working on the other, blah, blah. They're both finished now, and I want to share them with you and talk a little bit about them. I haven't yet. I have a thought of a name, but I'm not going to share it just yet. So I did basically the same general outline on two different mediums. One medium being fabric, linen fabric, and the other medium being canvas work, a canvas. So on the linen fabric, this is now done. And I love the way it turned out. The thing that I was going for here was to take linen fabric to work what cross stitchers would call specialty stitches, but to do a whole piece with specialty stitches, sort of in a way that you would see more canvas work, particularly like painted canvas work, but not limited to that. Also canvas work that starts with a blank canvas. So, it wasn't about proving that it works. I sort of knew it worked, but I was wanting to explore how it would look, how it would come out. What I did is I chose 5 different colors of DMC. This is all just DMC, and 5 different stitches. Obviously, all right, cross stitch would be the 6th. The borders are all cross stitched in a 6th color, but then each ring of this design is a different stitch. And let me see if I can. I can't tell whether you guys are seeing that. I don't know if the light, I don't know if that makes it any better. So I'm hoping you can see that these are all stitches that are not your standard cross stitch, but they're all cross stitch family. This was not something I thought of when I started it. For both of these pieces, I had picked out the 5 stitches that I thought I was going to do. I'm good to go. I had all my stitch books. And then for each of them, I think either only 1 or 2 stitches remained at the end because things weren't working the way I wanted them to work. I didn't think of this at the beginning, but when I started, I started in the center. I think I showed this last time. I was pleased with how it looked. This center is stitched with 2 strands. All the rest is stitched with 1 strand. And that was, again, not something I thought about ahead of time. It's just what worked. When I tried, I think I tried all of them with 2 strands just to see. And in every case, the 1 strand is what worked. I wasn't going for complete full coverage here, although it's pretty full. I mean, the 2 strand definitely looks full coverage. I wanted to explore how different stitches look. And so I picked out 5. I would do something, it wasn't working, I didn't like the way it looked. And so as it evolved, I ended up going, or I think when I had 3 of them by pure chance to all be part of the cross stitch family. Like when you have stitch books of stitches, more commonly canvas work people have them. And where am I? So some of the books that are right here on my shelf are some of my stitch books. They often categorize the stitches in different categories: straight stitches, cross stitches, diagonal stitches. And so I ended up, once I had 2 or 3 by chance that were the cross stitch family, like, you know what? It would make so much sense to have them all. So all 5 of these stitches involve crossing in some way, but not in any way claiming the same as a standard cross stitch. And again, if you count the border, that would be 6, and it's a standard cross stitch for the border. So I'm really pleased with how this turned out. If you remember, or whether or not you watched or not, the other version I was doing is a canvas work. I'm trying to, what happens if I do a dark behind it? I think that gives you the basic idea. So this version, the linen version, was about using the same thread, DMC cotton floss, but using 5 different stitches and 5 different colors. This version became using 5 different stitches and 5 different threads, all the same color. Because you have 3 things at play: color, stitches, thread. And sure, you could do this design with all 3 of them different. My thinking was, let's explore what happens when only 2 of them are different and 1 remains constant. So, and then it would be, if you're staying with me here, that there should be a 3rd version of this, where the type of thread, no, the threads are different. Color, stitches. The stitch stays the same, so all the same stitch, but then different colors and different threads. And to me, that seemed a little too close to regular stitching. We do all cross stitches a lot of the when I'm doing cross stitch piece, we do all cross stitches, usually using the same thread: floss, cotton, DMC, silk, whatever. You wouldn't necessarily in that case do the same, you wouldn't necessarily use different threads, but actually some people do. In a part of their project, this one's cotton, this one's silk, here's a color and cotton, and here's a Victorian motto, and so on. Anyway, that 3rd idea just doesn't sound new and different to me. So I had thought at one point I might do a 3rd, but once I started thinking about it, I'm like, nope, I'm happy with the 2 I've done. So back to this one. Even though, I'm liking the fact that you can see some of the canvas, especially in the outer ring and there we go, in this ring, it gives you the effect that you can see that these are different. These are all 5, and I meant to bring the threads up and I forgot, 5 different threads, all Rainbow Gallery. I think I showed them last time. I know the center has Frosty Rays. This is patina, this is silk lame braid, this is very velvet, this is treasure braid. Haha, I think I did it correctly. So different stitches. Let's see if I could come up close. It's a little hard because I should have taken it off the stretcher bars. So I'm hoping you could, and this one was not, I didn't stick to any particular stitch family. So there's some straight ones, there's some cross ones. I think I was trying to avoid diagonal because I didn't want something that's basically a circular, to have to deal with the diagonals there. So I really like how this came. I like how both of them came out. They are same basic idea. You could see that, but using different principles. Now, what am I going to do with them? Well, I'm not ready to share yet what I'm doing with them, so stay tuned. So I'm glad I could show you the finishes, and maybe by the time I see you next time, I can share a little bit more about what will be happening with them. Okay. Did I say at the beginning I didn't think this was going to be a long one? I don't think I did, but we'll see how. You already, as is always the case, you already know how long it is. To me, I just knew that there wasn't that much on my list. So let me get through the last couple of things. What I am working on now, like literally downstairs of my stitchy space, is not something I'm showing right now, stitching wise, but I did want to talk about colors related to it. So I will give you the preview that there's only 2 threads, 2 colors involved. One of them is a DMC variation, and I don't know if you can see. Let me try to turn off the light. Oh, that's a little bit better. This one has got blues and purples in it. And I brought up my DMC color card so that people know exactly what I'm talking about when I say DMC Variations. When you, I don't know how long, but for much longer, these colors have been out and around. I don't find them easy to get. Like, I don't see, like the big box stores, the Michaels, the Joann's, AC Moore, I can't find those. Okay, that's me, that's my area. Maybe you can find them pretty easily. The ones that came out just 3-4 years ago are these. and I believe they're called DMC Variations, and I don't know what these are called. And the variation ones, so these, if you were to look, sorry, my computer just went dark, and all right, it's still recording. All right, if you were to look at these, or were able to look at these closely, you would see they're all monochrome, meaning, you know, this is shades of red, this is shades of blue, this is shades of green, but they're all shades of the same color. The variations have a variation of what, that's silly, have more than one color in them, but they're subtle. Well, so the best thing is, you know, this is what I call a subtle variation. The colorists, am I doing this right? Yeah. This, I'm pretty sure this DMC card came out before the colorists, however it's pronounced. The other kind of DMC variegated thread, which has strong variegations in it. And they call that colorists, or it's color IS. I don't know how they pronounce it. And the one time I tried one of those, I found the color change too abrupt. You know, as compared with some of the beautiful overdyed threads that we have, silk, cotton, whatever, that have, you know, some strong variation of different colors in them, the hand-dyed ones really tend to have a nice gradual movement from one color to the other. The time I tried colorists, and granted, I tried it once with one color, I should give it more of a try, I just found the color changes too abrupt. But not these. And I have had this color, I think the first time I saw them, I bought 2 or 3, and I know, like, these are my colors. You know, I love this. So I'm using this in a new pattern. I don't know whether light is better or not. I'll turn it back on. I'm using this in a new pattern, and I needed an accent color. I didn't want to go totally off from this. That's not explained very well. I thought what I was going to do was to pick up the deepest purple. There we go. Whatever. You know, blues and purples are in here. I thought I'd pick up the deepest purple, and that would be a good accent color. I was wrong. It blended in too much. And if you've been around and you know the pattern I did, a band sampler born in 1604, I think that's what I call it. It's a band sampler, and the picture of it on my Etsy store is, it's green. I did this similar kind of thing. I had taken an not overdyed, variations, and had used an accent color that was a solid green. And that one worked well. I think I just went to a very dark green. I don't remember for sure. But this one, using the same color, didn't work. So I kept going lighter and lighter near that shade, playing around different shade families. And what I ended up going with as the accent color is this, which is 340. Let's turn off the light again. And I know holding them like this, you're like, that's really an accent. Well, it looks like that here, and I can't wait for when I get to show you how much I am loving the way this is playing out. The way this 340, if you're familiar with it, it's like a blue-violet, how much this is enhancing the colors of this. So I say this all to encourage you to give it a try. If you are someone who relies a lot on the big box stores for your thread, for DMC thread, which I get it. Some people literally only have, my hair. Some people literally only have, you know, Michael's or Joann's or Hobby Lobby or whatever. And so you use DMC. One of the things I like to do in all my designs, but some of them in particular, is sort of say, even when you only have the big box stores, you can still do beautiful things. And again, this variations came from Michael's. It wasn't a special order by any means. Oh, I took out my color card to say that what I have going on here is an analogous color scheme. And if you are if you're not familiar with color theory, I encourage you to pick up a color circle, color wheel. You can get them. I'm pretty sure this one probably came from Michael's. I think you find them more in the like painting art section. It is, and usually what they have, you know, all kinds of information here about the things that are interesting to learn about color theory. So I'm just showing you that when you look here, where this finger is, it talks about monochromatic color scheme, analogous color scheme, so on and so complementary, split complementary, triads, and so on. But analogous is when you choose colors that are how do they define it? Using any shades, tints, or tones of colors that lie adjacent to each other on the color wheel. And you could clearly say that what I'm loving right now is this area of analogous colors. So pick up one of these if you are intrigued. And there's plenty to read about color theory. There's a lot more, but the basic essence of it you could get from a couple of bucks or something like that for a color wheel. How are we doing time? Oh, all right, 26 minutes. I said this wasn't going to be so long. I have one other thing I wanted to share with you. I don't often talk about books, but it's a book talk. So if you're not interested in books, peace out, that's fine. Many people have acknowledged in Stitching World that it's the 100th anniversary of the women's suffrage, women getting the right to vote. In that was passed through in 1920. We're here at the centennial. I know there's been a number of stitching designs that have come out related to this, and I think even starting like last fall. And that's wonderful. It's great. I think it's really interesting to learn the bigger story. So yes, we have a date, August 20 something or another, 1920. Woohoo, it's all done. No, it's not. It's not all done. I highly recommend a PBS documentary that came out, I want to say it was mid-July, well ahead of the actual anniversary day. And I believe it's like 4 parts, 4 1-hour parts, and they showed it, 2 nights, 2 hours each. I know watching PBS documentaries isn't always easy to find or stream unless you have the PBS streaming service, whatever they call that. Anyway, if you can get it, if you could get the one that is a 4-hour, documentary series, it was so interesting. I learned so much about the backstory, what was built up to 1920, starting back in the 1840s, and the various women who led the charge and basically had to pass it down to the next generation as time went on, and the various milestones that happened positively and negatively. So after watching that, there was one day in August where I was watching, I was on the Library of Congress website, and I think I went there because I knew that they had a special display or something like that, and from that learned and got to watch a round table of 3 or 4 women talking about not only the women's right to vote from 100 years ago, but what happened past then, what's happening currently, and so on. One of the women was Elaine Weiss, and she was a part of this panel to give like the historical perspective. I think there's someone giving like the cultural perspective. Anyway, and she spoke about her book. I'm like, you know what? I want to go read the book. So it's called The Woman's Hour, The Great Fight to Win the Vote. I will say this, it's a little dense. She has a lot of detail in here. And a lot of the overarching stuff I had learned by watching that documentary. I think everyone needs to know that there was a battle to the end, that to get the 36th state, which is what was needed to ratify the amendment, to get 36 states, it boiled down to Tennessee. And it boiled down to one male representative changing his mind and voting for the ratification. It's an amazing story to learn about, whether you watch it or you read about it. But what is so hard for us to understand nowadays is that there was a strong group of, I'll say people, but a lot of them were women who were fighting against the amendment. They called themselves the anti-suffragists or the antis. And so in here they refer to the antis and the suffs, meaning the ones who were fighting for. And this entire book is basically about the weeks in Tennessee. I mean, of course, there's a lot of backstories of the individual people, but it basically is playing out not the decades and decades before, but it's really playing out for the time in Tennessee. What I learned from this book, and I'm just, I'm getting towards the end of it, is that I'm pretty sure the PBS documentary ended with basic, ooh, we got it, it passed. If you've seen anything, you might have seen an image of Alice Paul unrolling a amendment flag, suffragist flag, and she was sewing on a star for every state that ratified. And the story being that word got to her, telephone, however it was done in 1920 that night, and she sat down and sewed on the 36th star. And that's as far as I knew of the story. I am pretty sure, I'd have to watch it again, but I'm pretty sure that's more or less where the PBS documentary ended. Maybe a few sentences beyond that. What I learned from this book was what happened afterwards, that they actually weren't in the clear. Because of some political maneuvering, I don't know, basically, in the chaos of when it seemed like they had enough votes, it was 49 to 47, and if it had been a tie, it wouldn't have passed. There was a Senate, it wasn't the Senate, it was representatives in Tennessee. There was a representative who called out that he was changing his vote, and then he was also doing something. I forget what that something is. But basically that there was a provision that if somebody changed their vote and then basically said, I want to think about it, that's what it was, there was 72 hours before the vote could be considered done. So whatever the rule was that's ineffective, I want to think about it because I'm changing my vote last minute, happened. And so while everyone's rejoicing, truly there was another 72 hours to get through. And so, I mean, I didn't know that because right before the pictures, on page 308, right here is where I thought, not that it would end, but I thought this was the end of the fight. And no, right after the pictures, there's a whole section of what happens next. And so I'm in the middle of that. And there's still after the fight ends that day, there's 50 more pages of this book. I looked ahead just to confirm, and I was so glad to see it, that while, yes, there's going to be some history to exactly how things played out, not only I've gotten past the 72 hours, obviously it still stayed, but the governor had to sign it. It had to get back to the D.C. It had to get out to the states. And the key thing about 1920 is that women getting the vote to the presidential election that fall. I was so pleased to see that there is plenty of acknowledgement towards the end, as I took a sneak peek, that not all women got the right to vote on that day in 1920. Black women still struggled. Native American, Asian American, and there's a little piece of the history of different groups and what it took over the years. So I'm looking forward to kind of continuing on the end, see what else is in here, somewhere between, and the very last thing, I admit I looked at, the very last thing is about how on Election Day in 2016, voters, because I don't think they were all women, were flocking to the graves of Susan B. Anthony and Alice Paul and Carrie Chapman Catt, and some of these big players. The one that I think got the most coverage was a Susan B. Anthony grave in Rochester, New York. There was a lot of FaceTime streaming going on, but apparently it was happening other places. That in 2016, people were honoring these women who started the fight and got it through. So I recommend learning about something that's important. I'm going to say for our country, but I also know there are people outside the U.S. who are watching me. So, and different countries have their different suffrage stories of what it took to women to get the vote in their countries. I recommend this book, fully acknowledging that I skimmed through some of the middle parts, that I got the sense there's a lot of players involved. I didn't need to read every minute detail of their background, but the story is fascinating. And I want to say I even recommend that PBS documentary even a little bit more. If I can find a link to it, I mean, I bet there's something on the PBS website. I don't know if you can watch it. can you stream directly from the PBS website? I don't know. I'll link what I can down below. Oh, but there's one more thing related to him. So glad I looked over. So one of the reasons that I thought that would be interesting to just share, well, I think I love it when people are in Flosstubers are sharing books they've read. So, some people not interested, which is why I and many people sort of put it towards the end. But I read this recently. It doesn't have a date. I want to say it was a couple weeks ago. So, and I thought, this is something we need to know, because it's not that things ended in 1920. So this is particularly a New Jersey story, but it might play out in other states as well. I'm just going to read a little part of this. This was written by the former lieutenant governor of New Jersey, who was a woman. And she wrote, on August 24th, we lost a great giant from our judiciary. Jeffrey Galkin became a Superior Court judge in 1973. I mentioned Judge Galkin, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing his name, not to highlight his brilliant career, but to note the contribution made by his wife, Ellen, and how her actions profoundly affected women in New Jersey who, like me, the writer, sought public office while married to a judge. I don't know if I had no idea about this. 1947, there was in the New Jersey Constitution, 1947, judges are required to remain completely divorced from involvement in partisan politics in order to ensure judicial integrity, which was considered indispensable to maintaining public confidence in our impartiality of our courts. Makes total sense. This part's interesting. In order to implement this mandate, our Supreme Court felt it necessary to extend the judge's disqualifications from political involvement to include that of a judge's spouse. And so this woman, Ellen, whose husband was a judge, in 1973, all she wanted to do was get a seat on the local Board of Education. And under this rule of the state constitution, she wasn't allowed. The judge said, my wife's not, we're totally separate. I'm a judge. She would, nope, wasn't accepted. In spite of these assurances, our Supreme Court denied the petition, finding Mrs. Galkin's candidacy for a Board of Education represented, quote, a form of political activity which would unintentionally but seriously affect public confidence in the judicial system. It goes on to say she accepted it for the moment, but then worked to fight it. And she succeeded. It doesn't say what year. Does it say what year? It doesn't say what year that the court. I'm trying to. It doesn't say what year, how long it took. But the lieutenant governor, Kim, I should know how to pronounce her name, Guadagno, writes that her husband is a judge. He was appointed to the bench in 2005. She ran for sheriff of Monmouth County and became the first woman elected in that position in 2007. 30 years ago, I would not have been allowed to run for that office because of my marriage to a judge. And then her political career obviously continued onward from that beginning as a sheriff. Who knew? I mean, I was sort of aware, I was aware that there are things like getting a credit card in your own name was not allowed up and through the 70s. That certain, I get it, that all kinds of things that we think might have been solved by 1920s voting, women getting the right to vote, most certainly weren't. So, but I didn't realize something like this could have possibly happened. And so, it takes individuals and people supporting the individuals to make change. And I think that's a great overall thing to keep in mind, that in this day and age with everything that's going on right now, when you see something that needs to change, see if you could do your little part in doing it. Ellen Galkin did that and helped women in the state of New Jersey because of her actions. Okay, I'm looking at my list. I think I've said everything I was going to say. All right, now I did talk on for that topic for a while, but that's okay. If you're still here with me, thank you. And I should have said from the beginning, you all have so many Flosstube options to watch. I know that many people are so interested in full-on cross-stitch, and I get it that I might not be, I don't show all cross stitch. So for those of you that are interested in what I show and what I share, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. If you're interested in entering to be part of drawing to, my computer just went dark again, but it's still recording. If you're interested in being entered for the giveaway for one of my patterns, make sure you leave a comment that has your initials. And that's about it. Thank you so much. Till next time. Bye.